Okay, planning board, we are live. We are recording. Phone lines are opened. Go for it.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the East Hampton Town Planning Board's February 11th, 2026 meeting. We have a pretty ambitious agenda tonight, so we're going to jump right into it. The first thing is a public hearing for St. Michael's basement alteration site plan. Is there someone representing the applicant here? Okay. We'll be right back to you in a second. Are we properly noticed, Brittany? Okay, great. All right, so first, Sarah, you're going to take us through the application, and then if the applicant would like to make some remarks after that, please do.
Do I have to read?
Oh, you'd have to read that.
Public hearing notice.
I know, right?
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held for the East Hampton Town Planning Board on February 11th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. The application is the St. Michael's Basement Alteration Site Plan. It is a 233,477 square foot property, or 5.36 acres, located at 488 Montauk Highway, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-172-2-9.4. An application has been made for alterations to the basement of westernmost building, which contains the community center and manager's apartment that were begun without site plan approval. A former storage area was converted to living space as an addition to the existing manager's apartment. The alteration converted 469 square feet in the basement interior and built a 22 square foot exterior basement stairwell for additional access.
Okay, thank you. Sir, if you'd like to address the board. Please first identify yourself, name and address, please, for the record.
Brian Lester, Tarvin Lester, 132 North Main Street, East Hampton, New York, for the applicant. Good evening. This application has been vetted by this board previously before we got to this public hearing. It's a small extension of the manager's quarters in order to provide housing for one of the security and maintenance people that assist and is a family member of the manager, necessary for living and to keep the property safe, and the inhabitants have a constant maintenance person available to them on site.
Okay. Sarah, I forgot to ask you if you have any other comments.
No, nothing additional.
I think Jen's memo kind of covered it, right? Okay. All right, thank you, Brian. Are there any members of the public present here who would like to speak on the St. Michael's basement alteration site plan? Okay, hearing none. Are there anyone on the phone lines?
Please stand by. And this is Matt Chapman calling in from LTV, just making sure everything is up and running. Everything is good, and you have 0 callers. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we have no public comment on the St. Michael's basement alteration. So Jen, do you want to move to
Make
close?
a motion to close the public hearing.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, our first work session item is the McGarva Barn site plan. Special permit modification. Aaron, that is you for the planning department. Jen, and I see that the applicant is here. So Aaron, if you want to take us through this.
This is the McGarva Barn site plan modification. It was last reviewed on January 28th, 2026. Some background information. There was an application made seeking a modification to the previous site plan approval. Proposed modification to remove a fire well at a curb cut, performance bond, for a longer turnout time for the horses, remove a jumping ring, and allow fence line irrigation. The original application approved upon with 6 stalls, a grooming room, a tack room, a washroom, and a second-story hayloft. Additionally, 4 padlocks, a jumping ring, and 7 parking spaces were approved. The subject property is approximately 5.1 acres in size and is zoned A3 residence. Lot is currently improved with a 2-story single-family residence, attached garage, porch roof deck, 4 padlocks, swimming pool, full fencing, hot tub, 2-frame shed, and a playground patio. It's located within the South Fork groundwater protection area and is within the Suffolk County Pine Barrens. During the previous review, the planning board issued written comments for the applicant to address. The first written comment was the board agreed to turnout time of 4 hours, as was previously in the application in the last meeting. The planning board agreed to amend the pasture management plan to no longer require their turnout time of 4 hours. No further action is required. The second one question was the applicant should amend the accessible parking space to be compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act. The applicant did amend the accessible parking space to now be compliant with the ADA by changing the proposed surface to asphalt. The town consulting engineer agrees the site is now compliant with the ADA. No further action is required at this time. The third question was the applicant clarified that 7 total parking spaces will be provided, including 1 accessible parking space. Previously, it was unclear how many parking spaces were on the property. However, the applicant has clarified on their site plan that there will be a total of 7 total parking spaces, including 1 accessible parking space. Going further than that, the following question was the applicant should amend their site plan to meet town parking requirements. The applicant did do that. They're now providing 3 grass parking spaces, 3 asphalt parking spaces, and 1 accessible parking space. In line with town code, which will require 5 total parking spaces in the situation, one of which would be ADA accessible requirement. They are putting in 7 parking spaces, meeting the requirement. Lastly, the board agreed that accessory parking structures that were built should be allowed to remain. During the last review, 3 accessory parking structures built since the previous site plan was deemed to be allowed to remain. No further action is needed. The town consulting engineer reviewed this application and gave us their report on February 3rd, 2026. They agreed that they said engineering approval was recommended and all such parking issues were fixed. Same with the fire marshal, David Brown, reviewed this and gave us a report on February 4th, 2026. They found the site to be ADA compliant and within 1,000 feet of public water and fire hydrants. For public hearing, as this application is a modification, the board is not required to hold a second public hearing. However, it is noted that the original site plan / special permit application received public comment previously in the 2008 site plan approval, and the board may elect to hold a public hearing at this time if it feels there's potential for public concern regarding the application, regarding the modification. In conclusion, the planning department feels this application is ready for approval, and the board should discuss whether they feel a public hearing should be held for this application.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Before we turn this over to the board for discussion, does the applicant wish to be heard?
Yes, please.
We know who you are, but identify yourself for the record.
Thomas Crouch, attorney for the applicant, Wayland Filer, PLLC, 532 Montauk Highway, Amagansett, New York. Just one clarification. I think one of the things Aaron mentioned is that we were removing the jumping ring. The jumping ring is going to remain. I think at one point you said that we were modifying the application to remove the jumping ring, but then at a different point said it was going to remain. So that, just to clear that up, so there. Yeah, you summarized it pretty well. Could ask the board to just move forward. We don't believe a public hearing is necessary. These are pretty minor modifications. So happy to answer any questions the board has.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Thanks.
Jen.
Thank you, everybody, for the recap. Yeah, we've heard this application several times, and I, thank the applicant for adjusting things and clarifying and, responding to all of the comments from the planning department and the board. I do think, given the nature of the comments that were heard on the last iteration of this, that we should have a public hearing. It's a beautiful property. I actually drove up there today. You probably saw me on your camera. I pulled in and it's a little snowy. I turned around and pulled out. But it's a beautiful property. It's 5.1 acres. I'm of the opinion that a horse farm is in keeping with the rural nature of the neighborhood and the town. But I do think we should have a public hearing.
Any other comments? Any other thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think they're minor modifications, and I'd be in favor of waiving the public hearing.
Okay. All right, that is going to be one of the questions that we're going to ask. If there are no other comments, we'll go to the questions. The first is the modification application complete?
Yes.
Yes, all around, right? Okay. Will the board require a public hearing to be held for the modification application? I vote for yes.
I vote yes.
I'm leaning yes. You're leaning yes. Reed, you're a no?
I said, yeah, no.
I'm actually leaning towards no.
Okay.
Whoa, tiebreaker.
Oh.
Yeah.
I am leaning towards yes, only because there was public comment in the past, so.
Yeah, I mean, this has had a long gestation period. I just want to make sure that everyone in the neighborhood's, feelings about this from years ago have been resolved. I think they have been with that new pasture management plan, but I think it's useful to have a public comment. So we will move forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
As far as, when would the resolution be on?
To schedule the public
Yeah.
hearing?
Next meeting, next meeting. Yeah,
So that's all it costs, it's 2 weeks.
yeah. All right, so our next work session item is the Seacrest Pool and Shed Site Plan Wrap-Up. And that is, who did I give that to? To you, Ava, right? That was Lou's. And that is Chris. Please.
Thank you.
Oh, applicant. Oh, there they are. Okay, good.
I'll just give a quick summary since this is a wrap-up memo. This is for the Seacrest Pool and Shed Site Plan. It's a phased site plan. Phase 1 shown in green here does not require any zoning board approvals. Phase 2 in red requires a natural resources special permit, which the zoning board already agreed to go administratively. Phase 1 is just replacing the pool and its surrounding structures. Phase 2 is the new clubhouse building and sanitary system. This was complete at its last review. There was a public hearing held on January 28th and no comments were received. Engineer and fire marshal both signed off. And the last piece is that we are just waiting for comments from the Suffolk County Planning Commission on whether we can go forward with our resolution. So provided the board agrees, the application is ready for approval, pending feedback from the Planning Commission. So once we get that feedback, we would have the resolution prepared for a meeting soon after the board agrees.
Okay. Any word from the applicants? Okay, Ava, your thoughts?
I agree with the planning department that this is ready for approval pending the Suffolk County Planning Commission's sign off.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Everyone on board with that?
Yep. Yes.
Ready for approval? Okay. And right, we can give this approval before the NRSP, as Chris said, and the resolution after we get feedback from the County Planning Commission. So we're good. Thank you. All right, next up is the Surf Club 4-phased site plan wrap-up. Chris, you again, and Bruce, this is you.
Thank you. This is another quick wrap up located 20 Surfside Avenue in Montauk. This is just as a reminder, it's for enclosing existing patios to add livable space to 4 units across the subject property. There was a variance already obtained from the zoning board for setbacks from the dune to the south. And this one is complete and ready for approval, provided that the board agrees. And if they do, I believe we have a resolution prepared for later this evening.
Yep. Okay, again, applicant, nada, okay. Bruce.
Yeah, I think we've heard this a couple times and I think we're ready to go ahead with the approval.
Okay, well, that is our one question. Does the board agree the application is ready for approval?
Yes.
Yes, all the way around. We could actually go right to the resolution. That would make Lori really happy. Right?
Hang on. I got mine.
It's our goal here.
Let's see. Here we go.
Okay, in the matter of the application of Surf Club 4-phase site plan, this is for site plan approval, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-49-6-21. I have read the determination and move for its approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
Thank you very much.
All done.
Thank you, sir.
You bet. All right. Next matter is the Springs Brewery site plan. Chris Stecker, that's you again. And
That's, you can sign that one.
can I assign that to Jen? Lou is out today, yeah. The applicant I see is here. So Chris, please.
So this is the Springs Brewery site plan located at 847 Springs Fireplace Road. This is the planning board's third review. The last one was on August 13th of last summer. Just note that the planning department also prepared a meeting for August 27th. However, the applicant adjourned prior to the board's discussion, and a revised submission was since provided. So the parcel is zoned neighborhood business. It is 0.25 acres and contains a one-story building previously used as an auto body repair shop. Probably not in an overlay district, but is adjacent to the Springs Historic District, Harbor Protection Overlay District, and the Acrobonic Harbor Critical Environmental Area. Pulling up the site plan. So the application was submitted to remodel the existing building from an auto body repair shop to a brewery. The applicant proposes two uses: wholesale, retail, beverage distribution, and retail store. The wholesale beverage distribution would apply to the rear portion of the building, and that's proposed for brewing beer only and not to be open to the public. The applicant detailed that most of the beer produced would be sold at wholesale. The retail store is proposed to apply to the front of the building, would be for customers to purchase beer, mainly to go, with some limited on-site consumption proposed. The planning department requested confirmation from the building department on whether these uses align with the town code, and the building inspector determination dated October 22nd, 2025 confirms that these uses are classified appropriately. The determination is attached to this report for any board members wanting to review. The proposal involves remodeling the existing building with some facade changes and interior alterations for the proposed uses as detailed in our report. The existing septic system is proposed to be replaced with a low nitrogen system, and the existing well would be abandoned and they would connect to public service line. Now, just to go over the issues from the planning board's previous review, the board requested additional information for submission items required by the town code, and the applicant provided revisions for many of these items. However, the following issues appear to remain outstanding. First is the height of the proposed retaining wall needs to be provided with elevation drawings to demonstrate that the proposed parking can be measured from this property line towards the northwest. As you can see, there's a retaining wall along this property line, and they're measuring the parking from that property line, including the wall, because their intention is to use the wall for wheel stop overhang. So if the wall is short enough, they'll be able to do that, but we need that demonstrated with elevation drawings to confirm such. They also need elevation drawings for a split rail fence along the front property line. Details on signage should be provided. The town code details the architectural review board only has exclusive jurisdiction to review signage when signs are proposed, not connected with any activity requiring site plan review. The floor area needs to be indicated consistently. There's a slight discrepancy with the proposed sanitary calculations, which require a revision. And the layout of parking is indicated consistently. On the engineer plans, there's a small gap between the northern property line and the parking space, whereas on the architectural plans, the landscaping plan, the spaces go right up to the line. The next issue was the board commented that the driveway dimensions should be revised, or that they should remove proposed bollards to limit obstructions in the driveway. The applicant removed the bollards, and that issue has been resolved. Next, I've gone into it a bit, but the applicant was asked to provide compliant drive aisles, and the applicant revised plans with a 24-foot drive aisle and reconfigured the parking. This issue appears resolved pending confirmation that the retaining wall can be included in that dimension. And you can see here, the dumpster enclosure is located between parking spaces, which is unique, but basically they did that because that corner of the building is closer to that property line. So in that portion of the property, it was not feasible for them to provide a compliant parking space and drive aisle. But as you go towards the south, that's where they were able to meet those requirements, it appears. So we're satisfied that pending the issue of the retaining wall. The next issue is the total lot coverage, which has come up in each review. And we asked for a detailed breakdown showing which structures would be included in their coverage calculations, and the applicant provided such a list. And the planning department notes the submission details the proposed total lot coverage is 68.3%, where 70% is permitted by the town code. And I'm just going to pull up the architectural plans. Landscaping shows this a little better. It appears the applicant excluded portions of the revised driveway, which now includes grass strips in areas that were previously proposed with pavement. Commercial driveways should be improved for their entire width, and regardless of whether grass was permitted in these areas, they would be considered part of the driveway, which is included in total coverage per the definition in the town code. And the planning department confirmed this with the building department, just for everyone to know. So our estimate, the planning department, is that the proposed total lot coverage is approximately 8,400 square feet, or 76.8%, where 70 is permitted. This would require an area variance from the zoning board. It does not appear that the proposal can be revised to avoid a variance from being required, since an increase in total coverage is likely needed to provide the required parking for the uses. And generally, the planning department would not recommend against a variance in this instance. The proposal is increasing permeability by offering gravel in areas currently paved with asphalt, and we don't expect or anticipate any significant adverse environmental impacts from this proposal. The applicant should revise the coverage calculations and help confirm the extent of the variance which would be required. And just also note on the driveway, with the site navigation, having those grass strips would likely lead to ruts, mud, things of that matter, without any aggregate in that area. So we recommend that it all be paved in accordance with design standards. Next is the issue of the sanitary system. No, pull up the plan. But the applicant confirmed that the details were submitted to the county health department and they appear sufficient for review. The subject parcel has a population density equivalent of 150 gallons per day. It's a max sewage flow they could have. And as mentioned in the memo dated August 27th, that's the one that the board did not get to discuss. The county health department project density loading rates includes a unique provision for breweries, which states that breweries with a greater than 15% of the floor area dedicated to tasting shall use bar rates. And given that more than 15% of the area is in a space for tasting, the county may apply bar rates to the proposal, which would likely result in a loading rate increasing to beyond 250 gallons, which would require a substantial variance. But ultimately, the county health department will determine which use aligns with their review standards and whether the proposal conforms with the maximum in this instance. And the applicants should continue to provide any updates they receive in their approval process. And a couple more issues to go over. The noise, there's some exterior equipment proposed along the southern facade. The applicant provided manufactured spec sheets. There's missing noise data on the proposed generator and glycol chiller systems. These should be provided, and the sound output for the HVAC system exceeds that as what is permitted at the property line. And just note that doesn't mean that it would not comply, but details on the noise attenuation would need to be provided, and the applicant just must demonstrate that the equipment's going to comply with the town code standards. The special permit standards are listed in our report, but are more for the board to consider once this application is complete. And then just going over the engineer comments, the engineer continues to recommend that the drive aisle for the accessible parking space be swapped with the space itself to avoid the driver door from being blocked in when a driver pulls in. And the applicant noted that the common practice is to have the aisle on the right-hand side so that is where the vehicle door loading ramp is typically located in certain vehicles. And the planning department finds this acceptable, and the board should just discuss whether they agree. And it would also note that if they were swapped, you'd likely see a further increase in coverage, just since there'd need to be paving in that area. The next thing from the engineer was just a recommendation of project limiting fence to be installed during and before construction of the retaining wall along the property lines. The planning department agrees with that recommendation, and it's something that should just be noted in the next submission or added to revised plans. And it's something that we would go out and inspect prior to a building permit being issued. Lastly, the fire marshal signed off for firefighting permit purposes and compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, but he did point out that the floor plans must be revised since the employee bathroom opens into a space used for food or beverage preparation. So the applicant should just revise that to address his comments. The other approvals this will require is Architectural Review Board, Zoning Board of Appeals likely for a coverage area variance, the Health Department for the sanitary system, and resolving the fire marshal's issues. So in conclusion, the application is incomplete pending the issues mentioned. The applicant should provide the mentioned elevation drawings, signage details, and revise inconsistencies to meet submission requirements. The total coverage calculations and paving improvements should be provided for the entire driveway. The applicant should apply to the zoning board for a variance unless revisions can be made to avoid such. The applicant should demonstrate the equipment will comply with noise standards and address the fire marshal's comments. The board should discuss these issues and determine whether they agree. Should also discuss the engineer's comments about the accessible parking and the project limiting fence.
Great, thanks, Chris, very thorough. Does someone from the applicant's team want to be heard? Just identify yourself, please, as usual.
Hi, Gunnar Burke. I'm the architect as well as on the applicant team. Just wanted to talk about the coverage issue a little bit and give kind of our professional point of view. We respectfully interpret the code a little differently regarding the ribbon driveway. We designed this ribbon driveway specifically to reduce impervious surface area as part of a site-wide strategy to increase permeability on the site. That's currently all asphalt. You can see we're proposing gravel, which is more permeable, as well as these vegetated strips in the driveway that are, we do not believe fall under the definition of a structure. So we think this strategy meets the spirit of the zoning code by increasing permeability, reducing stormwater runoff, and maintaining vegetated space and the rural character of the area. And we also think counting the entire width kind of removes any incentive of doing that. In regards to this, we respect that the planning department would support a variance, but we can't really afford another year of deliberation on a variance for this. So I suppose if the ribbon driveway is not accepted as a solution to the coverage issue, then we will revise the use layout to reduce demand on the driveway area.
All right, thanks, Gunnar. Jen?
Yeah, so Gunnar, actually, if you wouldn't mind coming, come on back. I just have a question about the driveway. Chris, did you mention that it is against code for a commercial driveway to have, it has to be paved? Is that what you said?
I'm not sure if it's exactly codified, but the standard is the planning board typically requires any commercial driveway to be fully paved. Especially in this instance, you have a driveway that's more narrow than the typically approved width. And that's something we typically look for. And regardless of the improvements that the building department confirmed, that the entire driveway would be included.
And is it the recommendation of the planning department that be paved? Because I do agree with Gunnar's point that it.
Yep, yeah. Our recommendation was just only providing grass in that area could lead to mud and ruts and whatnot, and that it wouldn't be likely that it will last in a grassy state. But yeah, I believe that's our take.
Gunnar, how heavily trafficked do you anticipate that to be with trucks loading for delivery, et cetera?
Not large trucks, but, typical small delivery trucks, on I would say weekly basis, not daily basis. But, just a quick point about the code. The only language in the code about this is the definition of coverage and the definition of structure. There's nothing that specifically talks about commercial driveways or specifically a driveway such as this. It just defines what coverage is and that it's an impermeable structure, and then it defines what a structure is.
Right.
So.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a couple of other points to talk about with the board, so I have to think about the driveway thing for a sec. Because while I understand the thinking of the planning department in requesting that it be an impervious thing, it does then, trigger the need for a variance, which as a planning board, we would hope that you wouldn't have to have a variance. So this seems to me, this seems to be a good solution. I'm kind of talking it out in my head as I think about it.
One thing I don't understand is if it's okay for the parking area to be gravel, why can't the driveway be gravel?
Good point.
The gravel
If you wouldn't mind-
Driveway.
as coverage.
What's that?
If you
Gravel
could,
is counting as coverage.
it is counting as coverage. It's right.
Right,
okay.
but it's pervious and not impervious. So if it's okay for the parking to be gravel, why not the driveway?
But it would still count towards the
still counts.
coverage.
No, I know, but that's a
Okay.
separate question, whether it's pervious or impervious.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think it's less about the permeability. Yeah, in this instance, it's if the grass is proposed, it's still part of the driveway and that's still part of the coverage. We would prefer to see gravel or some sort of asphalt there to avoid.
But gravel would be okay for the driveway.
Yeah, I believe so.
But ultimately, though, it comes down to a coverage issue.
No, I understand, but it's more pervious than asphalt.
Yes.
So, okay, so that's the driveway. So I think at first glance, I would be in favor of allowing it to be grass strips instead of fully paved. That's how I'm thinking on that. I did have just a couple of other comments on this. I think most of the stuff that Chris mentioned is, technicalities as far as, resubmitting the plans, the fence, elevations, the signage, the consistency in the floor area, the parking layout, where you removed the bollard, all of that stuff seems to be fairly minor site plan adjustments. How much, I am curious about the sanitary system. How much of the area, you said it had to be greater than 15% for it to, how much of the area does the tasting room take up of that building?
Not sure about the room itself, but the square footage of the retail area, which includes that, and Gunnar can correct me. So I'm not sure whether that includes the bathrooms and if the health department
is
it's more
counting
their review standards.
Okay.
But 854 square feet I believe it's.
27.
Of 27, yeah.
17 square feet.
Okay.
Yeah, so, it's more than.
It's more than 15%. Okay. And that's not really our purview anyway. I was just wondering if
It was more just something we flagged for them,
Yeah,
and we expect them to
totally
go through
understand.
the health department process separately.
I think the only, I mean, I think that you guys have done a great job with the revision, and I'm very happy that the building department did come back and say that it's considered a retail space, not a bar space. I did want to just ask one more question about I know that you guys submitted a narrative. Are there plans to have any sort of seating inside the retail area?
Yes, we do plan.
Can you come up to the
You have
microphone?
Come up again, sorry.
We do plan for limited seating inside the tasting area.
How many seats approximately?
Approximately 10 to 12.
Okay, so because we don't have a definition for tasting room in the town code, I don't know what the standard is. We discussed this a little bit in the pre-call. So I think if we could get a more clear narrative of the tasting room use and the number of seats and all of that, then we can kind of evaluate that on the next go-round. But those are really all of the things that I have flagged: the seating inside, the small, technical nature of all of the other changes that need to be made, the question about the sanitary system, and the driveway. Those are all my notes. Thanks, Gunnar. Anybody else?
Yeah. Other comments?
Any proposed outdoor seating?
No, we're not proposing.
Yeah, I think, listen, I support this application. I think it's a great idea. And I look forward to you being able to open this up. As Jenna pointed out there, Chris has very thoroughly pointed out what needs to be done to complete the application. I think you know what those things are. And the narrative, I think, is important about the tasting room thing, since this is an unusual circumstance for the town, right? We're sort of finding our way through this notion of tasting room. So your narrative about that will help. I just don't know how we get around the coverage issue, right? That I'm struggling with.
Yeah.
What we do about that.
I had a quick question. Gunnar, you had mentioned kind of in lieu of having to get a variance if this strip is included, which to me, it does appear to fit the definition and would be, where would you potentially look to maybe cut back? I didn't catch that, or.
We would redistribute the use in the building, which would potentially eliminate a parking
A
spot.
parking space.
Oh, okay.
I got it.
All right.
Okay.
That could be your solution.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. Any other comments? Okay, I think we're getting there, Gunnar. Yeah, thank you. I'm really glad this turned out the way that it did for you
Me
guys.
too.
We do have questions that we have. Do you have other questions you want to ask? Okay.
Oh, just
Just for 1 second. Good evening, Britton Mistrian, also for the applicant. I just want to note that the code doesn't necessarily state that the driveway material, it actually says that a driveway can be composed of gravel, dirt, or pavement. So we're hoping that we can maybe ask for an interpretation, or maybe we can sit down with Chris and see if there's a way to maybe use grass pavers or somehow to riddle that driveway issue, because I don't think that it's inappropriate in Springs Historic District to not have tons of
Absolutely.
paving.
Yeah.
It's a, this is a transitional sort of commercial zone. So hopefully we can find something that aesthetically is pleasing and meets the coverage issue and all the other stuff all the other details, changing the bathroom entrance and all those things. We can resolve everything. If the board could just give us a really distinct response on the engineers, our engineers comment about the handicapped person getting onto the passenger side and the driver's side. If the board could just tell us which way, so we don't have to go back and forth on that very small issue anymore.
I think that's fine.
It also causes another more of a coverage
I
issue
think
for
it's
us. So
absolutely fine. And
have that
makes
resolved.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fine the way it is.
Yeah,
I agree.
Great, so we'll do our homework and we'll come back.
All right, good.
Thank you.
Thanks so
We have a
much.
few questions we have to answer before we conclude. Does the planning board agree with the planning department's assessment of additional information that must be provided per town code 255-6-50, necessary elements of the site plan?
Yes.
Yes. Does the planning board agree that total coverage calculations should be revised? I think we're going to work on that.
Yes,
Right?
yeah.
We're going to work on that. The planning board agree the driveway should be revised with paving improvements for the entire driveway. Paving improvements.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we could say yes to that. Does the planning board agree the applicant must demonstrate conformance with town code noise standards for the outside equipment?
Yes.
Does the planning board agree that the configuration of the proposed accessible parking space is acceptable? Yes. Does the planning board agree that the applicant should provide project limiting fencing during construction for the proposed retaining wall?
Yes.
Does the planning board agree that the applicant should revise the proposed floor plan to address the fire marshal's comments?
Yes.
Okay, we're good. We'll see you.
So we need to ask for a narrative on the,
Yes,
Yeah.
thank
sorry,
you.
and the
Thanks for reminding us of that.
And yes, if we could get a narrative on the seating plans for the retail space.
Yep. All right, thanks so much. Our next matter is the JHA Main Street Office Site Plan. Chris, once again, that's you, and that is Reed for the board. And
Written for the applicant.
and Britton for the applicant. Chris, please.
This is the board's third review of this application. It was last reviewed on November 5th of last year. Located at 261 Main Street in the Amagansett Historic District. And I'm just going to pull up the plans here. The property is zoned central business. It's approximately 0.42 acres and is the existing improvements include the 2,333 square foot house, a 240 square foot shed, a deck and fencing. The house is known as the George L. Baker House, which was constructed in 1853, and the site is 100% clear of natural vegetation. The proposal is to convert the existing historic residence into an office use. The proposal involves relocating the residence closer to the street. Also proposed is a finished basement for office areas and storage space, paving the existing driveway, and adding 13 parking spaces, including one accessible space. The existing sanitary system would also be replaced with an IA system. All parking is proposed to the rear, which aligns with the planning board and ARB feedback. So the comments from the last review, the planning board requested written consent be obtained from the property owner to the east for construction of the retaining wall. A notarized letter was provided and that issue has been resolved. Pulling up the landscaping plan. The board agreed the Norway maple tree can remain and the California privet along the eastern property line should be removed. The landscaping plan was revised and this issue has been resolved. The board directed the applicant to provide a compliant drive aisle toward the north. The applicant revised the plans to provide the 24 feet required. That issue has been resolved. And the planning board commented that proposed landscaping that was proposed between the building and the eastern property line be removed to provide a more compliant driveway. Those plans have been revised accordingly, and this issue has also been resolved. The other approvals include the health department for the IA sanitary system and the architectural review board approval. The application appears complete and ready for public hearing, and the planning board should determine if they agree.
Thank you very much, Chris. Would the applicant like to be heard? You're good?
I can speak, but I don't need to.
Okay, all right. Let's save some time. That's good. Reed, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, this is a quick and easy one for me. A thank you to the applicant. They've been very attentive and forthcoming to the planning board requests, and I believe the application is complete and ready for a public hearing.
Right. And that is our only question. Does the planning board agree the application is complete and ready for public hearing?
Yes.
Yes, all around. Okay, good, done. Thanks. All right, so our next matter is the Springs Fireplace Road Car Wash Site Plan Special Permit. Sarah, that's you, that's Bruce. And the applicant is here. Who are we putting? Oh, it's you again. You guys again, right, okay. put a different hat on. All right, Sarah.
A site plan application has been made to construct a 7,150 square foot building, along with associated parking, landscaping, drainage, sanitary, and associated accessory structures to be utilized as part of a major car wash use as defined in section 255-120 of the town code. The 43,663 square foot property is situated along Springs Fireplace Road in East Hampton and is zoned commercial industrial, with a portion of the property falling into the special groundwater protection area highlighted here in pink. It is 100% uncleared and is surrounded by properties of commercial industrial zoning. The property is also immediately adjacent to 2 access points of the town's recycling center. The application was last discussed in front of the board in January 2020, where it was determined that the application was to be scheduled for public hearing to allow collection of public comments, which had been numerous up until that point. At this meeting, the scheduling of the hearing was pending confirmation of the appropriate access to the property. It appears that the confirmation of appropriate site access delayed the scheduling of the public hearing, as after this time, an urban renewal map modification was pursued and has been approved. Prior to this review, there was a request for public hearing that was submitted in August of 2023. At that time, the planning department reviewed the files and prepared a memo that identified several issues that were recommended to be addressed prior to the public hearing. The applicant adjourned the planning board meeting in 2023. The planning board established a lead agency at the April 25th, 2018 meeting, and this is currently classified as an unlisted action. No determination of significance has been issued. The applicant has submitted an updated short EAF Part 1. However, due to the complexity of the application, the planning department recommends a long environmental assessment form to be completed and submitted for review. There have also been several changes in general site layouts and configurations since the last board review and throughout the duration of this application with the planning board. The size of the building has increased from 5,455 square feet from the time of the original application and is now proposed to be 7,150 square feet. The site has been slightly reconfigured. Previously, a large part of the need for reconfiguration was due to the parcel being part of the old file map study. The town board amended the UR map in 2016 to add a portion of Manhattan Street to the rear of the parcel to the subject property. Just to show you what has changed, this was the submission from 2019. So as you can see, it looks fairly different. You can see that entrance to the car wash is further or closer to Springs Fireplace Road compared to the newer submission. The planning department sees this as a favorable change. We also think that site circulation is an improvement. So the property also went before the town board for another UR map amendment to eliminate ingress and egress to the parcel from Springs Fireplace Road. So originally it was gonna take access from Springs Fireplace Road. They got a modification so they could take ingress and egress from Maryland and Ohio respectively. And again, the planning department sees this as a favorable change. The board should form a consensus on whether the proposed general layout is acceptable or if an alternative should be provided. The planning department finds the general layout acceptable and views the changes from previous iterations as an improvement. Per the last memo, the applicants have amended the site plan to provide a minimum 10-foot setback from the required scenic easement along Springs Fireplace Road. Let's see if I can zoom in a little. Yeah, so that can be seen here. Great. Per the site plan provided, the 50-foot scenic easement area is to remain in its natural state, which is mostly deciduous woodlands, the existing habitat type. This may not provide adequate screening during the winter months. Per the March 7, 2019 follow-up memo, the board wished to see additional evergreen landscaping screening to screen the parking lot from Springs Fireplace Road. The applicant should clarify if this landscaping is proposed and provide an updated landscaping plan. The planning department notes that, as referenced, there is a 10-foot wide screening area between the scenic easement and the edge of the parking lot where such screening could be located. So the wash bay is located towards the eastern side of the property. Vehicles will enter at the south from Maryland Avenue. As I mentioned, in comparison to the last site plan, this entrance is now located further along Maryland Avenue from Springs Fireplace Road. The site requires 1 parking space per employee according to town code, and it is estimated that there will be 8 to 12 staff working at a time. There are 40 or 41 spaces on site in total, including 12 employee parking spaces and 14 service spaces. It is unclear if there are 14 or 15 queuing spaces proposed, as there is a discrepancy between 2 plans provided. The applicant should clarify if 14 or 15 queuing spaces are proposed. Town code requires that there be enough queuing space to accommodate 8 vehicles per wash bay, as shown in the site plan. One thing the planning department found after the memo was prepared that I'd like to note is that a portion of the site does not appear to meet the 24-foot wide drive aisle requirement, specifically here between parking spaces in 9 and 10. So you'll note here it's only 14.5 feet.
It's probably right here.
Onto the traffic study. So this image here was the result of a computer auto turn simulation of a 19-foot long vehicle prepared by an engineer. So this just shows that a car could successfully navigate through the site. A traffic study was also originally conducted, which the planning board found acceptable back in 2019. In the 2023 memo, the planning department recommended an updated traffic study due to the age of the information and the fact that the original study did not reflect peak summer conditions. An updated traffic study dated August 5th, 2024 has been submitted. This included an updated report with turning movement counts collected in March of 2024. The report was prepared to examine the potential impacts of the proposed development, specifically on the intersections of Springs Fireplace Road and Ohio Avenue, and Springs Fireplace Road and Maryland Avenue. The traffic study findings indicate that the future 2026 build-out conditions demonstrate that the proposed car wash will not have a significant impact on delay at the study intersections, and that there are no impediments to the safe and efficient circulation of vehicle and pedestrian traffic on site. Onto groundwater protection and car wash water usage. In previous iterations of review, the board has questioned the water usage for the car wash. A few important points from previous reviews include that detailed information on the closed system car wash has not yet been provided. 2, applications involving chemical storage are routed to the Office of Pollution Control, which checks compliance with design and permitting, but not environmental impacts. The town planning board must ensure no significant adverse environmental impacts occur as part of SECRA. Third, it is unclear at this time where the applicant is with the Suffolk County Department of Health application. It is also unclear if the Suffolk County Water Authority has been involved to ensure there is no potential backwash from the system into the drinking water supply. An RPZ is proposed that's a reduced pressure zone device, and that's designed to protect the public drinking water supply from potential backwash. But I'm not sure if that's been reviewed by the Suffolk County Water Authority yet. The applicant should also provide current information on water usage and closed system operation. Previous data indicated that the car wash can handle 80 cars per hour. Each car would require about 69 gallons of water, only 11 of which would be fresh water. Approximately 84% of water used is proposed to be recycled according to the last details submitted. We believe the applicant should provide updated information regarding water usage and how the closed system will operate. This information is vital for the planning board to have so they can accurately assess environmental impact. The engineer comments are summarized as follows. There were no objections to the traffic impact study, vehicle circulation report, and proposed site layout. However, there are a few items to be addressed. The proposed grades for the sidewalk and car queuing lanes are higher than the first floor elevations of the building. The applicant's engineer should clarify that this is by design and correct. The town engineer also notes that an exterior lighting plan should be provided. Finally, and as mentioned, approvals will be needed from the Suffolk County Department of Health Services and Office of Pollution Control, which would be required for the proposed zero discharge car wash facility. The town engineer recommends that the permit to construct be a condition of issuing a building permit, and the board should decide if they agree. The fire marshal review notes that the proposed project is not ADA compliant and that the applicant should provide ADA detail from parking to accessible route to entrance. As mentioned, updated landscaping and lighting plans should be provided. Car washes also, this would require a special permit under the town code. As well, it would have to meet the specific standards and safeguards for a major car wash as outlined in town code section 255-550. The planning department notes that some of these criteria should be made conditions of approval. It should be noted that one of these specific safeguards states that the water used in the washing process shall be recycled and that the facility shall be designed, located, and operated to protect the groundwater reservoir from pollution. In addition to satisfying standards under local code, compliance with Suffolk County permitting standards and operating requirements would need to be a condition of approval, as discussed. I'd also like to note that there has been a significant amount of public comment on this application. Concerns of the public generally include, but are not limited to, traffic and groundwater quality. In conclusion, the planning department finds the application incomplete at this time and believes additional information on the before mentioned items should be submitted. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board has.
Great. Thank you, Sarah, very much. I'm sure the applicant would like to be heard.
Good evening again. Britton Bistrian here for 238 Springs Fireplace Road LLC. I'm also joined by Drew Bennett, who's the project engineer, and Greg Darvin, who's the project sponsor. There are a few points we'd like to make from the onset of this application, just because I'm not certain, although Reed may have been on the board. I don't think that anybody else was.
I was.
Oh, really? You were?
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you in 2015?
The 15 version. Yeah, right.
2015.
Many iterations.
Wow, okay.
Okay, yeah,
So-
history. Go ahead.
There are a few points we'd like to make just from the onset of the application, which began in 2015. The first is that the parcel of land being reviewed is in the hamlet of East Hampton. There was all this discussion about it being Springs. It's commercially industrially zoned, which is the highest, most intensive use of zoning that we have in town zoning. The parcel is vacant. It's surrounded by town roads and the East Hampton town dump. The majority of our comments are easy explanations and additional information that we'll happily provide, and we'll address the memo in totality. The only non-engineering comments that I'm qualified to respond to is that we will absolutely submit the long form EAF, no problem. I know it's been a while. And I just wanted to discuss the easement a little bit, because there was a lot of history with the town board, with the UR map, and I think we could all agree that this sort of scrub oak and brambles between Springs Fireplace Road are not exactly scenic. And it's kind of a weird place to have a scenic easement. None of the other commercial properties on this street have, if you think about any of the other occupancies, I don't want to list them off, but nobody has a 50-foot buffer to their business of vegetation. But we accepted this, and we chose not to, when we went to alter the urban renewal map, we chose not to alter the scenic easement, which I have actually done on a project down the road on Springs Fireplace Road. But I want to point out that 50 feet is a pretty significant buffer on this parcel, and its narrowest point, that's over 25% of the depth of the lot. And adding another 10 feet of this, of landscaping, isn't something that we would desire. There's also the kind of concept that we want some of the site activities to be seen. You know, they are pretty deep when you take the road right away and then the 50-foot scenic easement. We do want to run a viable business that attracts customers, and I don't know if screening more than what's already there is really sort of necessary. We don't want to not be seen. And we'd like to sort of maybe have some grass. We could do some low bushes if the cars are the concern. We just don't want to do tall plantings that obscure the building. And again, we have this 50-foot very heavily vegetated buffer. The other 2/3 of the property that we can use, there's really not much area for landscaping. If you look at it, it's mostly paved, it's parking, it's queuing, it's entrance and exit of the tunnel. I don't really see the need for a landscape plan here unless the board can direct us where we would plant anything that's on this parcel. And I just remind everyone, the percentage coverage you're allowed on these properties, on a CI property, is the most. And we are probably, I don't know the actual figure, but probably about half of what would be required if we didn't have this 50-foot scenic easement. So I just asked the board to give that sort of some pause and think about the use and the zoning and this huge 50-foot scenic easement that's in the front. And other than that, all the other questions are Drew questions, and I'm going to step aside and let him speak. I'm happy to come back though.
Good evening, Drew Bennett, consulting engineer on behalf of the applicant. I won't take much time. Obviously, we have some things that we need to file in writing for the board, but I'd like to give you sort of a broad brush of information tonight so you have some sense of what the responses will be. So for clarification purposes, the number of queuing spaces is 14, not 15, and that is based on an auto turn analysis that we had done 4 weeks after a prior map had been submitted. There was a question by the engineer about the grading. They point out that the grade, this is the east side of the building, the grade here is a little higher than the fifth floor elevation of the car wash itself, and that is correct. The building is sort of built into a very mild slope, so that side of it is a foot higher than the floor itself, and that was done by design. Yes, we understand we need to provide some details for the ADA accessible route, and we will do so. Yes, we need to refresh the lighting to match the new building that was proposed, the larger building. Good catch on the travel width that we heard tonight for the first time. That's an easy solution. Once we have more than enough space to park, there's one space that we can eliminate and easily cure that. And I guess the real reason I'm here is to sort of give you a sense of where we are with the wash water, the groundwater issues. It seems to have been kicking around for quite a while. I wrote a memo back in 2017 and another one in 2019, and I just learned tonight that there was actually even another piece of information that was submitted to the file by a car wash vendor that provided you some information. So trying to make it a little easier for you to understand, we'll be submitting a diagram like this. I won't give it to you tonight, which basically goes through the mass balance of how much water is used for each car, how much of it is recycled, how much of it is considered reject water, how much of it is treated.
How much is that? How much is used for each car and how much of it is fresh?
So for, car wash technology is actually pretty complicated, so it kind of varies depending on the location and the technology. For the friction car washes that we see here, like in Hampton Bays or in Southampton, round numbers, it's about 50 gallons per car. About 36 of that is recycled.
Okay.
And so I'll go through the numbers of makeup water, how much is lost from evaporation, how much of it is lost from what they call carry out. But I think the important thing for the board to understand is that this is a zero discharge recycled wastewater system. There is no proposed treatment and discharge on site. That would require a state DEC speedies permit. And my understanding is that treating car wash water on Long Island and discharging it up to the ground on Long Island is not permitted. So this is a zero discharge system. We've had some experience with some of the golf courses, which have similar systems to wash their equipment. They have basically treatment units that recycle it, and at the end of the season, they haul off the dirty water. For a car wash, you're using fairly more water, so there has to be a fair amount of storage for the reject water, and that is pumped out of tanks, holding tanks, that'll be permitted by the county, and there's monitoring for the tanks, and that water goes to an off-site treatment and disposal facility that's also regulated. So again, I hope that this diagram, which we will submit to you in letter, will give you the quantification of information that you're looking for. So, all right?
So you basically just described the closed system.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right. Okay, that's what I wanted to.
The key thing is that there's no discharge.
No reject water.
Yeah.
We're not treating it and discharging it on site. We're treating it, we're reusing it as long as we can. At some point, it becomes quote unquote, it's rejected. It's too dirty to keep using. And so they haul it off site for treatment and disposal at another type of facility.
So there'll be a storage tank for, on
There'll be
site.
a number of storage tanks, yeah, all underground. Some are, there's pumps, there's.
Are they on the plans currently?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
But they will be.
Yeah, so at some point, you're aware that this has to go to Suffolk County Department of Health Services for your environmental engineering review, which is basically tanks and storage of hazardous materials. Putting those documents together is a very significant endeavor. The owner is trying to get some sense of whether this is going to be a go before he makes that investment. And so that's where we are. So we're prepared to do that. We'll get there. Okay, any questions before I sit down?
Any other questions for Drew?
No, thank you.
I have a weird question. About how many times can you reuse the same water before it's deemed, unreusable?
So it's about 20% of the water. That's actually a complicated question.
Okay.
About 15%, it depends on the system, but about 15% of the wash water for each car is basically rejected. And so when you first start, none of it's rejected. But toward the later end in the process, as the water gets dirty and dirty, you begin to reject more. But on average, it's about 15 to 20%.
Okay, thank you, Drew. Bruce?
Yes.
I have one more
Oh,
question. Where's the water coming from?
Oh, yeah, so it's all, the clean water is coming from Suffolk County Water Authority.
Okay.
And there is an RPZ device proposed to protect the public water supply. And we have not yet filed with the Water Authority. That's usually done a little closer to building permit submission.
Okay.
Okay, Bruce.
Thank you. Sorry, Bruce is gonna, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. Thanks, Drew. Thanks, Britton. So I wasn't here when this project first showed up, so I think there's been quite a few iterations over the last few years. A couple modifications to the urban renewal map, which I think have helped, not only with it, grabbing that chunk of land on the east side, also with ingress and egress from the site as well, off of Springs Fireplace onto the side roads. That being said, I think the adjustments to the site plan, the site layout, the circulation seem okay to me. The queuing, the parking seem okay. It took me a little while to sort of wrap my head around back and forth through the site, but I get it. Obviously, you have to address the ADA, access to the site, the parking, all of that kind of stuff. Change in elevation from the east towards the west, it's roughly about 3 feet. I think, Drew, you've figured that out in your site plan. The building plans don't show that. The grade is just flat, so I know you've got it figured out, but I think that the building plans need to sort of address that. I don't have a problem with the increase in the building size. I guess I do question whether you need a huge lounge area. That's up to you guys. The building is still considerably under the allowable coverage for the lot, as well as total lot coverage. You're under that as well, so I think that all seems okay. Screening, I get the 50-foot wide scenic easement. It's pretty sparse, especially when you go down there. Now, I understand site visibility. Maybe we can do something to soften it up a little bit. Doesn't need to, I don't think it needs to be huge trees, but maybe something just to soften that up a little bit. Traffic study, the new one, I think is okay. The new one was done in early March, so I guess I just have to question the volume that was studied. Whether or not that changes in the summer, I don't know.
Of course. It was done in summer, was it not?
No, it was done in early
August. It was, but the report came out in August.
It came out and submitted in August. So,
okay.
Obviously that'll change in the summer. Well, I think we all understand that. Groundwater, I think obviously is a huge issue. Test hole information from the survey, no groundwater was encountered down at 19 feet, but I do understand that a partial of the site is located within, what do they call it? Groundwater protection. So I think we have to be cognizant of that. Drew, I appreciate your explanation of the closed system. I think that sort of alleviates some of the question I have in my mind. I guess I do question the volume of water that's going through. When I did the math, 80 cars per hour at 70 gallons per car, it just seems like a lot of water to me. And I'm just questioning whether or not this system, I'm sure the system will be designed to handle all that, but what happens, I guess we just need some kind of information or study or something to better understand how that water comes to the site, how it gets used, how it gets treated, where excess water goes, that sort of thing, and whatever countermeasure there may or may not be to, God forbid, something happens. All this water is going to take off down the street. Other than that, lighting plan, obviously we need landscaping, I think we can talk about. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, good. Thanks, Bruce. Let's go around the table and see what other comments there might be from other members about this. This is obviously a pretty important application. Ava, do you want to start?
Yeah, no, Bruce kind of hit all the high marks. There are a lot of, technicalities that, Drew and Britton both, obviously acknowledge will be addressed. I do agree that the groundwater is certainly going to be the number one concern, if and when this does go to, public comments been submitted. And to kind of elaborate on what you said with regards to the details about this closed system, I think it would certainly be very helpful to be as detailed as possible on in layman's terms, so normal everyday people can understand, kind of how this water, it's going to be stored on site. How often is it going to be removed off-site to avoid potential, issues with overflow, or what happens? Are there safety measures in place to cap, flow from leakage or anything like that? So I think more detail on that would be probably the best.
Thanks, Ava. Jen.
I agree with what Bruce said and with what Ava said. Groundwater protection obviously is, top of mind. I'm also a little concerned about the traffic study. I think that doing it in March doesn't really, include a lot of the, especially the trade parade that actually goes down, back and forth on Springs Fireplace Road every morning and afternoon. And, it is in a, it's a congested area. So I think you should maybe do another traffic study at the height of the season, at peak times of travel, just to kind of assuage some of the concerns that we have over here. I do think that the revised plan is, much better than the first several iterations. I did take a look back. But the traffic study, groundwater, and then I had one other thing. Oh, the scenic easement. I understand that 50 feet is a lot, but if you look at the dump next door, the recycling center next door, that's set way back from the road. And there is quite a bit of you can't see the recycling center. So it is in keeping with the neighborhood to have a 50-foot scenic easement there. And I think as far as landscaping goes, I'm sure we can work something out. Maybe not huge trees, as Bruce mentioned, but some sort of softening.
Okay, thanks, Jen. Reed, thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree with the previous comments. Ironically, the next application up at 378 Montauk Highway, I believe, was also
Yeah.
the location of a car wash that was proposed back in maybe 2015 as well. And I believe
Yeah.
that was a closed system car wash as well. And the same concerns were raised. People were very concerned about the groundwater. They were concerned about the traffic. And those are valid concerns, right? I mean, no one wants their groundwater contaminated. Let's protect that, right? And let's make sure that the traffic is manageable. So I think you're going about it the right way. I'll tell you what, I think we need to acknowledge we're in one of the coldest winters we've had in a long, long time, right? And my outdoor faucets have been turned off for 2.5 months. My car is so damn filthy. It is filthy. So what I'm gonna have to do is when the snow starts to melt here, I'm gonna have to go out to Southampton and get the thing cleaned up and brought back. So I see some value in a local car wash. And I think the location where it is, commercial, industrial, town recycling center, the building materials, the place across the street, you got the town highway department right there. It just seems to make some sense.
The bus depot.
Bus depot,
Bus
yeah.
depot, yeah. So those are my thoughts.
John?
Yeah, I echo what my fellow board members have had to say. The only concerns I have are about groundwater, protecting the groundwater. Like Reed, I would love to have I live in Springs, and I would love to have a local car wash. But I don't want sudsy tap water, though.
Right,
either.
exactly.
And so I'm sure this is existing technology. It can't be anything new. How it exactly works, a closed system is just unknown to us, and we'd like to all see it and understand it. I see the current set of plans show 11 dry wells, and I don't know what they're for, if they're not for maybe the Loop's closed system will replace those dry wells. I don't know. We just need to see it. I'd like to see it.
Okay.
That's it. And, traffic does increase in the summer.
It does, definitely. So listen, some of us were around for various discussions of this over the course of time. And, clearly the issues that people have had with this and who live in the neighborhood, live up Springs Fireplace Road in Springs, traffic, and the groundwater issue, right? This is a very sensitive area, right? We're right in a groundwater protection area, which is sort of ironic given it's the landfill, right? But this is a really critical area. And the information I have seems to indicate that it's 11 feet to groundwater in that area. This is a really sensitive situation, right? And I think that we clearly you guys need to be super transparent with us, with the building department, about all the detail of what you were describing. We need to be along for the ride with your application to the health department and really understand completely exactly what's going on here, because we're a secret lead agency. It's up to us to make sure that there are no environmental impacts to this, and we need the information. I also do think I agree with Jen that it would be helpful to update the traffic study. I think that would be good. I do believe all the other site plan situations can be remedied easily enough. We've talked about those. But I think, let's update the traffic, and let's be really, really transparent about how this water gets recycled, what your application looks like to the health department. Okay.
Questions?
All right, so the questions are, does the board find the general layout acceptable?
Yes.
Yes. Should the applicant clarify how many queuing spaces are proposed? I think you have. Should a long environmental assessment form be submitted? Yes. Does the board find the updated traffic study acceptable?
No.
Not really.
I think we're agreeing, no. Should the applicant provide additional information on the manner in which groundwater impacts will be avoided in the design and operation of the facility, including explaining status of health department submission and engineering issues such as provisions for cross-connection control, the anticipated water usage volume, and recycling system operations?
Yes.
Definitely. Should a permit to construct from the Suffolk County Department of Health Services and Office of Pollution Control be a condition of issuing a building permit?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Should the site plan be revised for ADA compliance?
Yes.
Yes. Should additional evergreen screening be provided to screen the parking lot from Springs Fireplace Road? No, I think that's TBD.
Yeah.
Agreed?
Yeah, agreed.
Should a comprehensive site landscaping plan be submitted?
Again, I think.
Again, TBD. Yeah. Should a comprehensive updated site lighting plan be submitted? I think that one is a yes. All right. So definitely some work to do here and some partnership to develop with the planning department and us. We'll keep talking about this. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Our final work session item is the Wainscott Green Hampton's Pride Project site plan. Eric, are you
Hello,
with?
everyone. Hopefully you can see my screen now. I'm screen sharing a far aerial of the location of the property. I will, which you can see is on the western end of town in Wainscott. I will switch to a close-up aerial. So a site plan application has been made to construct a number of accessory structures to create a monument at the town-owned park known as the Wainscott Green, also the Rick Del Mastro Memorial Park. The project proposes this space to be a celebratory outdoor social area, a marker for LGBTQ plus history, and a memorial garden for those from the East End lost to the AIDS pandemic. Structures proposed include a 14-inch tall raised platform of roughly 1,000 square feet and a 5-foot tall monument of roughly 56 square feet. Property is situated on the corner of Montauk Highway and Eastgate Road in Wainscott. It's zoned CB and is 100% cleared of naturally occurring vegetation and contains a roughly 12-space, they're undelineated parking lot, as well as walkways and a small roof pavilion with picnic bench. The property abuts residential property to the north and south, although all but one of these properties is across a roadway, and commercial property to the east and west. The project, and I'm going to switch over to the submitted site plan sketch now. The project is a type 2 action pursuant to SECRA and Chapter 128 of the Town Code, so no further action is required for SECRA purposes. Included in the applicant's submission is a slide presentation made to the town board. This details the reasoning behind the proposed project as well as the goals and some specific features. The planning board should note that this project has been reviewed by the town board, which has adopted a resolution supporting the project as currently designed, provided that all necessary approvals and permits are obtained. As a town park, the Wainscott Green has an adopted management plan that details the intended improvements and permitted activities. This plan was recently updated to include the Hampton's Pride project in the long-term management goals. The submitted documents do not provide basic information such as setbacks from property lines or total lot coverage. However, it's noted that setbacks in the CB zoning district for accessory structures are 10 feet from the side from the front and side property lines and 25 feet from the rear property line, unless waived by the planning board. As such, the proposed structures, which appear to be situated roughly 20 feet from the side property line and roughly 35 feet from the front property line, would be in conformance, even without the board electing to waive the setbacks. Therefore, it appears compliant with required setbacks. Coverage calculations have been provided on the submitted site plan sketch. Permitted total lot coverage on the property is 80%. The proposed area of the new total lot coverage, lot coverage is 2,160 square feet, bringing total lot coverage to 11,530 square feet. I should have mentioned 80%, the maximum would be about 38,000 square feet. Therefore, it's well below the permitted maximum. As a result of these, it does not appear that the proposed project would necessitate any variances from dimensional regulations and appears in conformance with the town code in that respect. So with regard to the necessary elements of a site plan, there are a number of items that are omitted from the site plan that's provided. You can see it in front of you. I'm going to go through a few of those. We recommend that a lot of the normally required elements be waived, but there is some basic information that we feel should be added to this site plan sketch. So for example, the site plan does not provide a scale or the zoning district. Both should be provided. The site plan does not provide front and side yard setbacks, basically from the platform. The setbacks should be illustrated on the site plan. No details pertaining to the existing parking area, such as number of spaces, dimensions of spaces or parking calculations have been provided. However, the application would not alter parking requirements and no change to the existing parking or vehicle access are proposed. Therefore, the planning department does not object to parking calculations not being added. Board should determine if it agrees. There are other issues regarding the walkways and demonstrating ADA compliance as well as drainage. That information is not provided on the plans. I'll get to that in a second when I discuss the fire marshal comments and the town engineer comments. The only other element that we cited is that topography is not added on this site plan. However, the site is relatively flat, so we don't see the need for topography to be added, provided that there isn't a need for grades or any similar information to demonstrate ADA accessibility. With regard to the landscaping plan, and I will scroll up, the landscaping plan is largely the same as the site plan sketch, but with obviously the plantings that are proposed being illustrated. The plan incorporates existing mature trees, mostly oaks, along with proposed flowering trees, shrubs and grasses and wildflowers. They are indicated as to be native species. Although the planning department has no objection to the general layout of the landscaping plan and commends the proposed use of native species, the plan does not provide any specific information about the plantings, specifically any fencing or other structures used for screening, the names of the plant species, quantities, locations, height, and spacing, all of which is standard information for a landscaping plan. And we note that the plan should also include a proper title. So no information pertaining to proposed exterior lighting has been provided. The applicant should clarify if any exterior lighting, including landscaping lighting, is proposed. And if it is, information manufacturer's spec sheet should be submitted to demonstrate compliance. We note that the proposed improvements are not large enough to mandate a comprehensive site lighting plan. That is actually codified. So the application was referred to the fire marshal. Formal comments to the record are still pending at this time. However, we did speak with the fire marshal. We believe that they're going to require some information, basic grades, maybe some additional information to demonstrate ADA compliance on the proposed walkways and to the platform that's proposed. If I scroll down to the site plan here, it's difficult to see. I can zoom in, but basically right where the walkway meets the platform, it's indicated that there's going to be an 8-foot wide ADA compliant ramp, but there's no further information on that. So formal comments from the fire marshal are pending, but we encourage the applicant to reach out to the fire marshal, and we will as well, just to determine what information they need to demonstrate that it is in fact ADA compliant. So I had mentioned earlier that no information related to drainage was provided. However, the town engineer has reviewed this and basically said that they have no objection to the engineering elements. The platform is not particularly large and isn't going to contribute a large amount of stormwater runoff, so no drainage was deemed to be necessary or no information pertaining to it as well. The town engineer did note that structural drawings for the platform should be prepared and filed with the building permit application, as well as any comments that the fire marshal had about ADA requirements should be addressed. This will require also the approval of the Architectural Review Board. I don't believe an application has been submitted yet. The applicant should do that as soon as possible if they haven't already done so. So basically, in conclusion, the application is incomplete pending the resolution of the aforementioned issues and submission of the required items. The planning department has no objection to any of the substance of the subject application, but notes that adequate documents need to be provided both for record-keeping purposes and to ensure that the plans adequately illustrate what is proposed. The planning department recommends that the plans be amended as described in our memo, but notes that the application appears otherwise complete, provided the board agrees to waive some site plan elements and provided the fire marshal and town engineer don't require additional information. And I would note again that the fire marshal is requesting additional information for ADA compliance. The board should also note that the project, although relatively minor in scale, does not qualify to be treated as a minor site plan under the town code, and therefore a public hearing will be required. You don't have the discretion to waive that. So for convenience, and just to summarize, as far as the elements of the site plan that need to be provided, the site plan itself should have a proper title, a scale, the zoning district, property line setbacks from the platform in particular should be illustrated, and any information that needs to be added to demonstrate ADA compliant as requested by the fire marshal should be provided. I should also note in our memorandum, I didn't highlight that the existing and proposed structures should be differentiated. So in other words, you know, for the example, the plan that you're looking at right now, the applicants are proposing those walkways, platform, and monument in the southeastern corner, but they're not illustrated as the proposed structures, differentiating them from what currently exists. And then a landscaping plan, as I mentioned, with a proper title, name of species, quantities, heights, and spacing. But other than that, the planning department has no objection to the proposal. We just feel that it's incomplete at this time and needs some additional information.
Great, thanks very much, Eric. Tom, would you like to be heard? Or just, you know, identify yourselves for the record, please.
Jason Lazaran. So a lot of these things that Eric brought up have been already amended in the other versions of these plans. These were sort of preliminary things we put in for expedience so we can move this along. We've already, you know, the town board has approved and issued a resolution in support of this, and we've been in front of the Wayne Scott CAC, which offered their unanimous support. So we just wanted to get this in as quick as possible. But since then, all of the comments that Eric has brought regarding the site plan, the landscaping plan have all been updated. And so they'll have those this week.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, and if there's any other questions, there is not any lighting planned for this. Also, I just want to point out the square footage, the monument itself, the base of the monument is 7.5 feet on each side. So it's 28 square feet, not 56, I think he had said. So the monument is it's 28 square feet and 5 feet high.
Okay.
As far as the ADA, there currently exists on the top, the area in black on the top is an existing ADA parking spot with asphalt going there, and then it leads to a gravel path. Our path, which would be part of this installation, the memorial path aspect of the project would be ADA compliant, but we're open to, you know, I'd have to talk to the fire marshal and I guess refer back to the town board on what the requirements, because this is what exists now. So we would be willing to continue that path to the existing ADA spot to make an ADA compliant path to the decking, which will have a ramp, which will have the appropriate slope to meet the ADA.
As long as it meets those requirements, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, it's about a foot of grade for every inch you go up. So we'll grade that out as part of the path and have it be the same material. So aesthetically, it kind of blends to that. And I'll let Tom.
Tom House from Hampton's Pride, and I've only been here to pitch the project to the board a couple of times, and we're, as Jason said, we're fresh from approval of the concept. It's about 4 years from the incorporation of Hampton's Pride, but we incorporated This was before the Hampton's Pride Parade. Before that came under our umbrella. I incorporated this because we wanted to see something built, where the swamp was, right? A historical marker, an outdoor social area. And so this Hampton's Pride was created we incorporated to create and maintain this outdoor social area to continue the history there. It's important to us, though, that it's seen as more than a memorial to the swamp, although that would be okay, right? Because it was there for a generation. But that area of Wainscott was known for, it was called the Miracle Mile. There was the attic was down the road from the swamp. There was a place called Out of This World. So that was a very, very special area that encompasses over 50 years of LGBTQ plus history that was about to be lost. I responded to, there was an article in the Star, and in which, when that area became a park, they said they were going to dedicate a bench to the LGBTQ community, because of its, the area's significance to that population. So I wrote a ghost words called, well, what kind of bench? And all the right people read it, and it was quickly decided that, yes, we need something more than a bench. So, we quickly, we contracted with a really great artist, Gustavo Bonavardi. If you see the plans, they're in the PowerPoint. You can see the renderings that he did. They're absolutely beautiful. If it's done right, it could be world-class, because there's nothing like it anywhere. There's especially nothing celebratory in nature. Like most of the LGBTQ monuments throughout the world are memorials. They have a soft tone to them. So, East Hampton sort of positions itself as having the first kind of social area or historical marker like this anywhere. So we're really proud of it. Worked really hard to get to this point, and we want to build it with impeccable materials in the most impeccable way, and have it be something in perpetuity. We want to maintain it. So I could answer any questions you might have about how it came about or why, but I don't want to take a lot of your time. Already did that twice for the town board meetings. But once again, the important thing I want to underscore is that, we think of this as a repository for, over 50 years of LGBTQ plus history, but also, it's on the very spot where the swamp dance floor was. We had it, surveyed out where we marked the four corners with the logo, these little monument markers. And that's, where the elevated dance floor would be built. It's there because it's a park. The places where the attic was and Out of This World, those are all business places now. Nothing can be built there, right? But this gives us the opportunity to have a place in honor of LGBTQ plus people on the East End forever, like right in that spot. It just so happens to be where the swamp dance floor was. I think there's a lot of poetry in that, but it's not limited to that, right? There's nothing like this out here. There's nothing that's dedicated to this community, right, as a gathering space. And it's really celebratory, it's fun, it's beautiful, it's colorful. So we really hope to build it this year.
Nicely done, thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll have a quick discussion about this and see what other questions.
The landscape plan it's going to be 100% native plants. I specialize in sustainable and ecological landscaping. So we're
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Up to that,
Yeah, so the landscape plan is going to be 100% native plants. I've provided a plant spacing table, species, heights, quantities. So all of that will be forthcoming, but I just wanted to reiterate what Eric said. So it's going to be a sustainable landscape model as well. So requiring no pesticides, no inputs, minimal water to get established, and
Awesome.
be also quite beautiful and attract pollinators and native wildlife.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John, comments?
I don't really have anything to add on top of what was discussed by Eric. And congratulations to you all for having had this vision and gotten it to the doorstep of approval.
Yeah.
It sounds like the deficiencies in the plan have been addressed, the technical deficiencies. And I guess the next step is an application to the ARB.
Yeah.
And
so our part is just to answer a couple of questions and send you on your way, which is, does the board find the general layout acceptable?
Yes.
Yes.
Does the board agree with the planning department that the items listed above as recommended to be waived should be waived?
Yes.
We
I
do.
think so, yeah.
Yeah. Does the board agree with the planning department that the items listed above as recommended to be provided should be provided? So you know what
Yes.
should be being waived. I think we've gone over that in some detail. That's it, we're good.
And then I think we just need to add that, the applicant will work with the fire marshal to address ADA compliance.
Yeah,
Yes.
good point.
Thanks,
Okay,
Eric.
we'll do that. All right, gentlemen.
The ADA compliance with the structure we're proposing, or ADA compliance for the existing park as well?
I think for what
I
you're
think-
proposing,
yeah.
what you're proposing. Yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, let's run through our regular meeting items. Okay, American Tower. Ava, you're going to do that one, right?
In the matter of the application of American Tower at 103 Flaggy Hole Road, site plan, special permits, personal wireless service facility, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-37-2-1. I have read the modification and move for the resolution to be approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, great. And I think you're on Este as well.
Yeah.
Look at you.
In the matter of the application of SD Restaurant Site Plan, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-50-1-13.1, I have read the resolution and move for its approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, unanimous. Phoenix House, that would be Reed.
Yeah, in the matter of the application in Phoenix House Security Gate Site Plan, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-191-2-1 for site plan approval. I've read the resolution and I move for its adoption.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. South Essex, this is, yeah, I know, this is an old one. In the matter of the application of South Essex Corner Site Plan Special Permit, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-49-1-13.2, extension of time. I have read the application and call for its adoption.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good. Snyder Phase Commercial Site Plan. Ava, back to you.
Okay. In the matter of the application of Snyder Phase Commercial Site Plan Special Permit, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-143-1-12.3, 12.4, 12.5, and 12.6. This is for an extension of time for 1 year to obtain a building permit or until December 18th of 2026. I move to approve this extension of time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. And we did Surf Club, right? We're done with that. So I think minutes.
I read them.
Who's got comments about the minutes? They were excellent.
I thought they were very, 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 very well done.
Yep. A+ on that.
Yes.
All right, so what's our next move here?
We didn't adopt.
Oh, we gotta adopt.
Adopt them, yeah. Who'd like to make a motion to adopt?
I'll make
these
that
fine
motion.
minutes?
My second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I guess we're gonna do that.
Second.
Second.
All in favor adjourning?
Aye.
Okay.